So let's talk about the pen tool. So you're going to outline these letters. Now, if you guys have used the pen tool before, this is going to be no big deal. You're going to grab this pen tool, just the straight up pen tool, and you can just click along. If you go straight across, you can see, I'm going to come in real close. You can see that that's pretty straight, but you could also make it crooked. So there is a modifier key that will make that straight. Hold shift and click. And also when you're making a lot of these things, don't have it filled in because then you can't see what you're doing. Do you see how that has the little half open triangle there? That means that it's still forming the pattern, that I'm still in the same pen tool. So I'm just going to hold shift, click, click, and you could probably get these straight, but if you hold shift key, you will get them straight. So you're going to make these letters just using that. And you'll also notice when you get to the end of the pen tool, you'll see a circle, and that's when it is closing the path. So you want to make sure you close your path. So see that circle right there? That tells you that the path is then closed. Because if you just come kind of close, then it's not closed. And we want it to be a shape. Okay, so you're going to make those. Now, when it comes to curves, it's a little trickier. It's a lot trickier. It's helpful when you're doing the pen tool and drawing something to make a guide. So remember, you just drag it out. Now, if I want to make more squares to this, just up and down. So generally, when I make a guide, I try to make the squares kind of a square shape. So that looks pretty square. I'll just make them a tiny bit taller, something like that. And then go to guides. Make guides. Now, another important thing is that's a guide, but you want to make sure that you can't move it because it's not a very good guide if it moves, right? If your guides are on lock guides, much better. Then you can move it around. It's kind of helpful. You could turn on your guides in preferences. So you could make a grid that is a 1-inch square. But the problem is that if you make that, you have to also show it. Hold on here, grid, show grid. I'm not a big fan of this one as much because it just makes my head hurt. I prefer to make my own. You can do what works for you, but remember when you get into the preferences, you can make that one, or you can just make this. When we are making the curves, that's where it gets complicated and it just takes practice. But I'm just going to give you some simple tips that will help. You can grab your pen tool. Now, when you're going around a shape, you always want to pull in the direction, the clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't matter which one, but you stay consistent. For example, I start here to make this circle or this ellipse, and I pull to the right, and these are the handles. So you have the anchor points and the handles. So I pulled that to the right, and do you see how the grids help me see how far I pulled that? Now when I go to make this one, the one thing you want to do is kind of use your smart guides to tell you when you're in the center. And then I'm going to go down. All my pull is coming to the right. I'm going to hold the shift key to make that straight. Now I'll come down here and I want to be in the same place that I was there. So I'll use that guide. Those guides that show up like that are called the smart guides. You can turn your smart guides on and off in view. I leave them on all the time because they're helpful. Now I pulled to the right on that other one, so I have to keep doing that. So I hold down here, I hold the shift key, and I pull to the right. So you can see that everything is going around this way. Then I come here, same thing, pull to the right, and here. Obviously, this is not the most efficient way to make an ellipse. The efficient way to make an ellipse would just be to use the tool. The point of this is not to show you how to make an ellipse, it's to show you how to do these curves. So once you've made a shape, then you can go into any of these and move them around. So maybe if you wanted to make something that was like an ellipse but came up a little bit, and these guides are super helpful. So you can move the anchor point to change where it goes, and you can move these handles. So I could move this handle out to here, and this handle out to here, and make that kind of shape. I can move this one down. Now also, remember when I said I was using the shift tool? If you hold shift tool, you're gonna get that 45-degree angle, and you'll get kind of a nice consistent shape with that. When you have a more organic shape to make, there's not a tool on here for an organic shape. You got to do it with the pen tool. When you're in the selection tool, your only access is to the object itself. If you want to get in there and manipulate it, you need to be in the direct selection tool. You click on it and all of these show up. So these handles will show up. Here's how I like to think of handles. It's kind of like if you had a steel rod and a garden hose, And as you turn the steel rod, the garden hose twists. So like that, it would twist with it, right? And as you come more to the center, it gets more pointed. And you can even it out on the other side by also taking that to the center. So you can almost make it like a point. So let's say some of your logos where there's like a shape that encloses it, but maybe you don't want a perfectly round shape. Maybe you want it to be kind of an oblong or skull kind of shape for some reason. And do you see how helpful the guides are, that grid? When you're making this, it's really helpful if you want to keep your handles even, to have this grid under here, and it could make a smile. Remember that the curves always go in the same direction. So you start here and you pull the anchor to the right, and then you take this anchor and you pull this way, and you take this anchor and pull that way, and this one that way. So it doesn't matter which direction you go, but you have to go in the same direction. For this circle, for example, you'd start here, pull, I'm pulling where the arrow is. And if I don't hold the shift key, this thing could go wonky. There's two things that'll make a shape wonky. One is if this is like that, and one is if they're not consistent. So I'm gonna hold the shift key, keeps it nice and even. Then I'm gonna click here, and again, I'm gonna pull to the right and hold the shift key, keeps it nice and even. Again, when I get to the bottom, I'm gonna pull to the right. And then when I get here, I'm gonna pull to the right. Here, I'm also gonna pull to the right. Okay, that's curves. It gets a little bit more challenging to make curves plus straight. With the pen tool, click that to make it start. Then I'm gonna go to the center, and my smart guides will help me with that. I'm gonna pull to the right, and then I'm gonna go to the point and pull to the right. And then I'm going to come to the center again, pull out to the right, holding the shift key, and then I'm just going to click to finish it off. Oftentimes, when I'm making these things, because I hate the pen tool, you have to modify them. And you can do that afterwards, so you can straighten it out. Sometimes I'll just like click, 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 because I know I can go back and fix it. So when you do it first and it goes wonky, it's okay. You can go back and modify it. So if you wanted to do these ones, you would make sure it's on a no fill and a stroke so you can see what you're doing, because if it starts to fill in, you'll be lost. This line goes straight right about to here, right? Before it starts curving. So I'm gonna, to get straight lines, you just click, start, click to the next one. Now I'll start curving at the tip of this angle. And I'll do it again, I'll hold the shift key to make it clean, and then I'll click there. Now, I want it to go back out again, right? So I just start from there and do the same thing. Hold the shift key, go down, come back to where, see how the line shows you where it stops curving and where you put the other one? Very important that you put it at the same spot. Drag it to the left like I did the other one. Now I'm just making a straight line, so all I gotta do is click, no drag. And here, make sure again that there's a circle to tell you that you've finished your path. And then you can go in here and fix this. If you want, you can shorten that, adjust it so it's a little bit more perfect. So I want you to do that shape and that shape, this one. And again, that one, you can make that other ways, but what if you wanted this to be custom? Like what if you wanted this to kind of go bigger on one end than the other? Like what if you're making that surfboard, right? So right now, this has a pointed end. It doesn't have the handles. I can instantly change that to a handled shape as opposed to a point by using this anchor point tool, this one right here. So I'll show you, I'm gonna click that on there and look, now I'll hold the shift key and drag it out. Do I want a flat or do I want it more pointed? And then let's say I decide, nah, I don't want that to be like that. I want it to be straight. Same thing. If I click on that with the anchor point tool, it changes it to a point. So this little tool is really just a changer. It changes it from a curve with handles to a straight point just by clicking on it. Also, if you're drawing and you want to move as you're drawing, you can use the space bar. The add anchor point and delete anchor point tool are pretty self-explanatory. So if I wanted to delete an anchor point, I have to click right on an anchor point, and it's going to take that anchor point out, which means it's going to be connecting from here to here. So if I say delete anchor point, now I have a much shorter surfboard, but I can use these handles to make it long. I can hold the shift key. So it doesn't mean that it's going to be a short shape. It just changes the curve. And in fact, the most important thing I can tell you is use the least amount of anchors that you possibly can, because it's so much easier, especially on curves, to control a shape when there aren't too many anchors. So if I wanted to fill this board out, let's say I wanted to make it like a fun board, right? So not so pointed for you people who know surfing. So I want to take this anchor to there, and then I do the same thing with this one. Hold the shift key, because if I don't, I might be slightly off. I'm going to hold the shift key, and I'm going to go right out here. Now I have a little bit more of a round surfboard shape. And if I want to make it a nice long board, I could go like that. Do these ones also. These are the same thing, going from curve to straight. Pen tool, and you go straight. We'll hold the shift key to make sure. And then I go to the center. With this pen tool, don't make a bunch of pin lines like this. It'll drive you crazy. Also, when you're done with the pen tool, you can either hit escape to finish it, or you can just click back on the pen tool and you'll finish it. If I had made this and I'm like, ah, crap, that looks horrible, I could clean this up by going to delete anchor point. I could take out that one, that one, that one, and that one. Then I would take and use my convert the anchor point and convert this by dragging it so that it is a circle. Then I grab this handle, bring this in, bring this down until I got it right. So if you don't succeed at first, you just keep working on it. So that's how you edit the pen tool so that you can get the shapes that you want. Okay, so this is practice, practice, practice. Now I'm going to show you something that makes that process even easier. And that's this curvature tool. I love the curvature tool because I'm not very good at the pen tool. Like let's go back to our circle. Check out how easy this is. The curvature tool helps you draw those curves. So with this one, I don't have to drag out the handle. It does it for me. All I do is click here. Now when I click here, it looks like it's going to do a straight line, right? But it's not. It curves it. Awesome. And with this one, it knows to stay on this curve. Even if I click here, it stays on that curve, even here, until I come back around. But you don't want these extra anchor points. Least amount of anchor points you can possibly use, and then you can just drag that out. So the curvature tool kind of helps you, but it can also drive you crazy. So it's just kind of a matter of preference. For those of us challenged by not being able to make circles very well, I actually like it. So I want you to make all these shapes with it. When you're going from a straight to a curve on the curvature tool, you just click or hold Option or Alt. So if I'm going like this, and then I click here, now it wants to curve that original one, right? You see how it wants to curve it? I don't want that one curved. So all I got to do is click. Now it's made that one straight. Now when I get to the top of the circle, I don't have to drag out those handles, which is why I love this tool, because I hate those handles. I click there and look at it, does it for me. Okay? And then to go under now, I've got to double click so that I can start making a shape again. There it is. Now I want to go over. If I just click up here, it's just going to keep curving that thing. So I need to stop the curving and then go. Same thing, stop the curving. So at first it looks like it's just going to go straight, but as soon as I drag this over here, you can see it's not. Now I need to go straight here. It wants to keep curving. I can either double click or you can hold Option. I use double click. Double click here. And if you don't remember when to change it out, just look by what it's doing. So now it's making my next curve for me. Now it's going to want to curve again, right? So all I got to do is hit Option or just double click that one. I can go straight again. And I'm going to hold this double click because it wants to curve again. Click here. Now do you see the little wavy line? It's going to want to curve. It automatically wants to curve everything. But when you double click it, you're stopping it from curving that next line. And these ones up here, you could go here. Like I said, you can kind of work all the way around it. It doesn't matter as much because you don't have handles. It doesn't matter as much where you. So here now I want to go the other direction. It wants to curve. So I just double click it. Let's go here. Okay, that's the curvature tool. Now, there's one more thing I want to show you that makes this all even easier. Now that I've shown you the hard way, there's no wrong way or right way to make a shape. You just have to use the tools you're most comfortable with. So maybe you start with a circle. Like if you wanted to make that surfboard, maybe you would start with an ellipse tool, drag that ellipse out, and then start modifying it. So you could tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna click, this is my basic surfboard, but I want it to have a flat bottom. So I'm gonna hold the shift key and drag this handle out a little more, and the shift key and drag that handle out. And this one's gonna have a sharper nose, so I'm gonna hold the shift key so it's perfectly even, and I'm just gonna drag those in. So let me show you one more thing that you're gonna go, I could do that? This tool right here is called the shaper tool. Check this out. I wanna draw a circle. Oh, it's the worst circle ever. No, it's not, it's perfect. Now, this does not draw organic shapes. This draws geometric shapes, no matter how organically challenged they are. So if I wanted to draw another circle here, it makes it into a circle. And I want to draw a small circle, and I want to draw another circle, but it gets better than that. It's better than that because you can also, remember how we used our shape builder tool to go in here and combine? Well, you can, while you're still in this tool, I can say, I don't want that line. I don't want that line. And I don't want that line. But wait, there's more. My original shapes are still there. So you'd think, oh, this is the only tool I'll ever use for the rest of my life, but it's not right for everything because it only makes these geometric shapes. It doesn't make those organic shapes that you need, but it's very useful. So keep that in mind too. And I could take this and say, that's kind of close, but I want this thing to be even bigger. So no matter how you create your shape, you'll end up with anchors and handles, always. So let's say that this is like Popeye kind of thing, and he has a big nose. You know how you look at clouds and you see things? Like I saw kind of Popeye here, and then there's an eye. So you could still take this thing that you created and then add to it. So just by clicking directly on the anchor, if you find it. With all those tools, I want you to do all those practicing shapes. And then I want you to come here so you can kind of see how those work out into a practical application. So let's say that you designed this logo right here and you had this sketch underneath. Now this is all locked. The content is all locked, so you're good. I want you to decide how you're going to make this. So you could do the pen tool and just click along, hold the shift key. So I can make this shape. I don't want to hold the shift key because it'll only be 45-degree angles. It won't do these ones. So I'll go here. And then when I get up here, it's going to finish the shape. And that's why it has a circle. What you do is make this one, fill it in with a color, and then make the other one. You don't have to do the type. The Nike swoosh, you'd have to go from a curve to straight, and then into a curve. I also want you to copy the type on Nike. So go pin mark by pin mark. In addition to the guides that I showed you how to make, you can use the rulers. Now my rulers are showing. If your rulers aren't showing, you go to rulers, like I can hide them right now. Go to view, rulers, show rulers. Because once you do that, you can drag them down as guides. And you can see I drag those down, and you can drag that. This kind of tells you where to put your curve points. So you'd put one right there where that hits, right there where that hits, and then to that point. So you can kind of make a custom like guide box around it to help you make the points and the curves. And then this one's a little bit more organic. So you're going to make this outside shape, a little perfect triangle, a little perfect circle, and then this organic shape here. You don't have to do the type logo bird and then color them in. I just want you to understand how making and building these shapes can help you put together your logo. So when you turn this in, this whole exercise, I want you to take off the bottom layer by the visibility. So today is just about constructing custom shapes.